Welcome, welcome to my channel. I'm doing something a little different today. We've we've looked at different decks for a few months now, and inspired by a post I saw on one of my Facebook groups that I follow, I thought I'd do something about reading with the tarot. So I'll do a little spiel. I'm in my daughter's bedroom today. The weather is absolutely foul today. It's so dark and it's rainy. I think we're in a cloud. We live quite high up, so I think we're in a cloud. So forgive the pictures of cats and K-pop stars and all the other things. It's better light in her room, and I can set up cameras and lighting more appropriately in here. So this video is going to be about what we could call visual reading, and rather than showing lots of I like looking at decks and going through them, but I think some people want to know how do you actually read, and looking at it beyond your little white book and the usual tarot books that you can buy. And there's different ways of learning about tarot. For me, learning and memorizing meanings, I find a bit tiresome. I've been doing it for many years, so it has sunk in quite a bit, but I still find it far from ideal. I think I'm more visual, and I think that's partly from my artistic background. And as you probably saw in the other video, I'm very much into the art behind tarot and the inspiration and the history. And that kind of informs how I read the tarot. I think I've realized this now. So anyway, this post was about forgetting card meanings, taking off the stabilizers, if you like. It was by Bri Grayson in the Tarot de Marseille study group, and I just thought it was a really good way of demonstrating how to read cards visually. So his question was a standard one that you might have when you can't find someone who wants a reading, is to read for yourself. And sometimes you're better avoiding more serious concerns for yourself because you often don't want to go down that route. So it's the usual kind of thing of, what do I do today? Okay, so he drew 3 cards and talks about the traditional meaning and actually the more appropriate meanings of it using the visual method. So I'll get the cards out and I'll show you. So I'll just flip the camera around, bear with me. Okay, so and I'm going to use this Noblet deck to demonstrate this. This is what he used. And so he drew his standard 3-card spread, roughly past, present, future. And these were the cards which came out. Now, using traditional meanings, you would probably get the interpretation of he's going to have a new love affair, Ace of Cups, that's going to disrupt his finances for the worse, but it'll be worth it as it'll result in a long-lasting relationship, the 6 of Cups. Now, obviously, that in everyday circumstances is very unlikely. Therefore, he decided to use a visual reading. So a more likely reading is that he is stuck in the house, and the Ace of Cups represents the house. The center coin here in the 5 of coins is that he's stuck between 4 walls of a house. So he needs to go out for a walk, and that 6 of Cups often represents a pathway, possibly in the countryside because there's flowers and vegetation. So yeah, he's stuck in the house. Get out there, go for a walk with flowers and growth. Now, if you'd focused on the traditional card meanings, you couldn't read it like that. So you have to be bold, and you have to take the time to master the deck, look at the cards that are in front of you, and this takes time. This kind of learning takes time. You can't get this quickly. And I know today many people want to learn quickly. They think knowledge comes easily. And in this instance, it doesn't. So I thought that was a good demonstration, because that often happens in tarot readings, is that the actual traditional meanings are way more profound than everyday mundane situations, and it's kind of inappropriate. And anyway, the next day, I think it was, I decided to do a reading on something that's been concerning me for a while. Actually, I got my ancient Italian out. There is a reason for that, which may become apparent. It's in regard to somebody I know quite well. I'm not going to identify them. He's an older man who is kind of ostracized from family and even in the community, and is often in trouble with police and public figures, and generally is a very troubled person. Now, one card that's always struck me in this deck was the first card that came out when I took the cards out of the box, and I thought, oh, here we go, this is a sign. Now, I don't usually use a significator when I'm doing readings. It seems to be something that's gone out of fashion a bit, and it often for me doesn't seem appropriate, and I struggle to find a card that represents a person in a reading, and it's taken a card out of the deck as well. Traditionally they're taken from court cards, but they don't have to be. Anyway, the first card I drew was Il Bagatto, traditionally the magician, or the juggler. So I thought, right, I'm going to use this one. It's the first card, and actually the character here looks a lot like the person that this reading is about. So I'll lay that to one side for now. So, an interesting start. It seemed important to have this deck and to use a significator. It wasn't a reading about past, present, and future, because really it's about the whole situation and trying to understand why he's the way he is, basically. Let me just move this. I hope that stays. Just moving the plant pot around here. So let's have a look at this. Il Bagatto. Now, this represents the person I'm concerned with. It looks like him. The tools and the stuff on the table actually represents what he did in his working life. I won't go into details on that, but he basically sold small tools around the country. He looks like he's full of his own self-importance, but he's totally untrustworthy. And he's a deceiver. That is the traditional with the juggler. Can you trust him? He's deceiving you. He can be on the negative side. He can be a cheat. He lacks self-awareness. It's all on him. He is the subject. In this case, he's done well from his work, and he raises a glass to the people he's perhaps upset and fooled and maybe wounded. And of course, it's card 1 in the deck. So it can represent somebody who is quite immature and quite self-centered if he's on that journey going through the deck. He's at the start of this. Now, considering the person I'm talking about is actually quite old, it perhaps shows a lack of development of the person. Now, I could have thought, well, as I'm not doing reversals, it should represent all the positive sides of the magician, the traditional magician. If I'd used those, it would have been totally inappropriate for this person. So I had to make that decision that although I'm not reading reversals, and I rarely do, it actually represents the negative aspects. And I do have kind of a negative response to seeing this card anyway. I rarely see it in a positive light. They could. One of the traditional meanings is a kind of inner confusion on the negative side, so that may be significant too. So let's put him to one side as a significant. Let's just put him up here. So I was using Yoav Bendov's 3-card spread, but not a past, present, future, just generally 3-card spread. And the one where if he draws a minor card or a court card, he'll draw another card to put on top until a trump card appears. So the minor cards inform the trump cards. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. So that was the first card. 4 of Swords, followed by the Devil. I'm going to put them all out because this is the way I work. Put them all out as they were drawn. Because using the open reading, you start reading when you see all the cards, and it gives you a feel for how this reading is going to develop and your interpretation of it. So not one card at a time, uncover, look up the meaning and see how that relates. And it would have all fallen apart in this instance anyway. So I already know quite a bit about the person. So I know some things to look for. There's no reversals. 4 of Swords here. I would interpret this as somebody who's hemmed in the greenery here by these swords of conflict. So we've got this conflict already. He's restricted and can't move. Now, not physically, he probably could, but kind of mentally and emotionally constrained. And this informs the Devil, okay? And the Devil in this deck, let's look at this deck rather than traditional Tarot de Marseille. You can see he's not a passive, slightly distant Devil. This one's actually really aggressive. He's in a struggle with this serpent. Well, some people say that's the Devil, and this is just Neptune. You can go either way. So he's in this struggle. He's been dragged down by some barely hidden forces from his subconscious, making him angry, but almost stronger as well, almost thriving. He looks quite well. He's quite, he's used to his anger, but he's also constrained in this restricted mentality, but continually angry. It explains a lot. So the next card, it's not past, present, future, remember. The next card was La Peso. And here we've got the Hanged Man. We could say he's constrained again, this time by the gallows poles. He's trapped in certain behaviors and thoughts. But he's kind of comfortable being tortured. And he's self-assured that it's fine to suffer, but beneath that there is some secret fear which you can kind of see a bit when you turn him round. Okay, but you do have to turn it round, so he needs to look from a different perspective to see that actually he is scared, and obviously he can't see an easy way out of this way of thinking and behaving. Obviously, it could also signify somebody towards the end of their life, and the head or the brain is inverted. So there could be some decline in mental faculties or dementia going on here. Okay, so we'll come to the next set of cards. Ace of Cups, generally a positive card. I cannot see a positive angle, to be honest, in this instance. And I think the 10 of Swords on top of that reinforces it. The other 2 cards we'll come to in a bit, and we'll get some more nuance with that. So the Ace of Cups, again, this 10 of Swords informs it, and in this case, it would perhaps signify being dried up or empty of the feelings. An Ace of Cups reversed, which is not reversed, but we're going to reverse the meaning of it, is it's dried out of emotion. And this 10 of Swords is somebody who's completely stuck in this way of behaving. And this comes up all the time in the other cards, of being stuck in a pattern of behavior and thinking they can't move, but at the same time being attacked all the time, and it's destroying him. So I kind of victim mentality. Now, the Fante di Denari, a page of coins, only one coin in this deck rather than two. Now, I interpret this card in all decks, but particularly in this one, as a younger person, or not younger in this case, an immature person in some ways, who may be a bit too focused on money and wealth and possessions, but also maybe looking backwards a bit rather than moving on from this way of being focused on material things and not looking at the pleasures in life and beauty and things which might stimulate and promote happiness and well-being, but very material in a slightly childlike way. And then finally, we've got La Papessa, the female pope. Now, the key thing of the female pope is that she is hiding her true self to others. Remember, historically, she shouldn't be in this role. She's possibly pregnant, as she was according to the stories about her. But let's look also at this deck. So we know this is the background. She's holding a book, though, and her hand gesture is showing that it's like, well, look at this. You need to read this. You need to understand what's written, what is in front of you. The facts being presented to you will make things clearer, although I'm not going to reveal much about myself. I have to keep that hidden. So it could be that there's a woman that could help him, but he needs to basically get on board with this and is possibly emotionally blocked. And again, I think the overriding theme of this is somebody who is rather immature, undeveloped, and hasn't been able to move on, trapped in behaviours and ways of thinking that kind of almost comfortable with it because it's so long. He's behaved this way, and this explains the trouble he's having with other people, his own family, and the community. This center card may, again, as this inverted head, inverted brain, is that kind of perverse way of thinking that's anti-society, anti-community, anti-family, and causing a lot of these problems that he has. So for me, this was actually a perfect reading. It was absolutely incredibly accurate if you read it visually. If you'd used it traditional meanings upright, it would have been nonsensical. You would have thought, oh, that's just not the person we're talking about. But this demonstrates the need to sometimes just step away from the little white book, the books of meanings, memorizing meanings, and to look at the cards, look at the deck you're using. Because if I'd used, say, the Jean Noblet deck and I'd got these cards, I would have had slightly different ways of interpreting this. And if it'd been a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, again, I would have had to give it different meanings. But it was actually absolutely perfect for this particular instance. I did later have a quick look at some standard meanings and see if there was anything that I'd missed. And I sometimes do that. I give my initial impression, and then I look at standard meanings and see if there's anything that perhaps elaborates on that and makes it clearer. So anyway, that was a really interesting week of exploring visual reading, and I hope that helps. I hope that helps to explain some things. Hopefully a nice short video today. The next video I'm going to do will be on this deck. I've got a case for this because the box it comes in is far too small. This is the Krebs deck from, it's a Tarot de Marseille Krebs deck, published by Piatnik. I'm going to do a little review and discussion on that. I'm actually going to do, hopefully, a video on decks that shouldn't work, but do. That their charms creep up on you. They're not immediately obvious, and they look like they're decks with many faults and a little bit on the not particularly aesthetic or artistically accomplished, but actually really work well. So that should be my next one. Okay, thanks for staying with me. Nice short one today. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.